process. And it was, like, we're really doing this, this is how it's running,
One thing that this book, the church, and the historical events that have taken place over the years, they are much more linked to Constantine the king and the emperor, wrapped in religious garb, than it is a religious system that has somehow migrated into politics in some way, shape, or form. And the spirit of it is more about authority and control and that kind of thing than it is in individuals finding a deeper relationship with God.
Well, the Gregorian calendar, which is what we're on, right? And I come to find out that, Pope Gregory Fiat decided just to take 30 days off of the Alexandrian calendar. And I mean, it was like
The Julian calendar,
for reasons of maintaining something that was already established in the Catholic Church power. And I just didn't know that, It's like the fact that was done, just on that basis, not the lunar calendar, nothing scientific necessarily, but just what we're going to do.
Well, even the Jewish calendar is all messed up. When they were under the control of the Greeks, the Seleucids, in the 300 BC area, they were required to adopt the Seleucid calendar, and when they finally had some sense of self-control later on, with Herod and the Asmodean, they did not adjust back to where they had it before. So they are actually 160 some odd years off compared to what it should be at this point.
Wasn't there someone that was saying, that there was the need to make that kind of adjustment relative to, I think it was in this film, The Star of Bethlehem.
What is it?
The Star.
Oh, yeah,
The Star.
Right.
And what they did is that they, the position.
Yeah, I saw that.
Okay.
Yeah. I did see that. Yeah.
And I think that was an issue that kept them from initially coming to the right date.
Well, part of it had to do with the actual the birth of Jesus.
That's right.
Because if you, a lot of scholars say 4 BC, but no, he was actually born in 1 BC, and that would be consistent with and that changes things.
It does, yeah.
There's also a prophecy from Daniel chapter 9, that brings the actual death of Christ to the actual date, April 6, 32 AD. Mm-hmm. But you have to have the right calendar in order to calculate that. If you are using the wrong calendar, it will never bring you there. But
yeah, and that was one of the premises. They couldn't align the constellation.
Venus and Saturn, Jupiter or Saturn, one of those, yeah. Yeah. I do. I saw it a long time ago.
Yeah. I was talking to someone about Privileged Planet. Have you seen that one?
No.
It's an oldie, but it's a goodie. It just approaches the fact that organic life has to have a very specific recipe. You can't, like you're looking for organic life on other planets or other places in the universe. there's these things that are missing that are found on earth.
Right?
And then one of the things that I thought was so fascinating and was brought out by this film is that our position in the Milky Way, because but ours is in this location where you can see out, and so it's like as if the planet was positioned to be a platform for observation, and that Psalm 19.
The third rock from the sun.
Psalm 19 is just like, saying, you can see this.
Declares the glory.
Yeah. And so it's very interesting. But I want to go back to the thing, because tradition and what our artist friend was saying is that, it's an imposition. And I think it's for us as believers, it's not an imposition because it opens up the opportunity to reflect on the real meaning, the source, the core material, we could say, and that everything else that's pushed forward to gather one's attention is like not, it's not, we're not interested in that. I mean, it's like, but that there's a pressure to, it's like people would rather believe in the bunny rabbit and Santa Claus than a historical person, Jesus Christ.
Don't forget the tooth fairy.
Okay, that's true. Well, I ran out of teeth, so I haven't seen him in a long time.
Yeah. Well, when you got grandkids, though, then it's still happening.
But yeah, those kinds of things that become points of reference. So, as I was writing up, I was saying how that the force, the energy of a tradition is its ability to trigger a historical remembrance in a person's mind. Mm-hmm. And so for Christmas, it's like, someone in our family was saying how that, the family would be dysfunctional for 364 days out of the year. And then all of a sudden it's like, we're talking to each other, like we're enjoying each other's presence. And so that's why it was important to this person, because it brought all that back, And I guess what we could say is like, that's when we can effectively create memories, where we can look back and historically and bring forward the value of what that event actually means, to us. Mm-hmm. And it ministers to us, if we want to use that word, minister, but we're changed, out of our present circumstances into a whole nother mindset. And there we are, until it's over, until the lights come back. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've been kind of really contemplating how to. I'm asking God for a story, that something kind of a word picture that communicates a clarity in what the relationship with God really looks like from this side. But for the believer, most of Christianity, I would suggest more than 95% of Christianity, they do not have a personal connection with Christ. It is religious. They are living their Christianity out religiously, without the depth in the personal connection to Christ that that makes it clear. I think the church has failed in characterizing, in painting the right picture of what that relationship really should be.
But then you've got the push, and I agree, you've got the push of the narrative, which is a religious narrative. It's not a political one, though it involves politics. It's not a social one, though it does infiltrate society. But,
And
like
it's
you
not just a
say-
moral one either.
No, but what you were saying about this guy who identified the harlot, in Revelation, that it's an organized, recognized entity,
Yeah,
and
institution.
yeah.
Yeah,
The other thing that I see though is the whole idea of
he's not leaving. He's left his.
all of the substitutes, not all of the substitutes. So, I was just thinking about Christmas lights, in our neighborhood. Okay, who are those for? Drive-bys. Basically. And maybe you're saying we're celebrating Christmas. So a house that doesn't have any decorative, it's like, so what are they? Are they atheists? Are they nonconformists? It's like, why does it even have to be on that level? I remember one person saying that I put up all my stuff because I want to be the brightest house in the neighborhood. So it's a competitive thing, and none of those reasons, but they are energized and they are recognized. And then you have Christmas Day, and it's been co-opted by football.
Yep, and basketball, and yeah, that's right.
Well,
By
just
sports.
there was 3 games on.
3 football games and 5 basketball games.
I don't even know about that.
Yeah, there was five NBA games too.
And so, if you think of it, that's the money changers.
It's more entertainment.
Yeah,
It's
that's
basically
true, too.
it's removed the focus to something more entertaining. And isn't that the church has kind of effectively done the same thing? When you look at the pulpit, the stage, and the big screen, and all of this activity is intended to keep the people engaged. Not much different than a theater in that sense. And so there's the focus, I think, is if I keep them happy for this period of time, then they'll come back, the next time.
And that's what the Romans did with the populace.
With what?
The populace.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Go to the Colosseum, you got a free bag lunch, drinks on the house, gladiators' blood on the soil. What kind of day? Hey, it was a great day. How many thumbs up? Not many. But it was, it's like a drug. Any case, the other thing that I found to be quite interesting relative to what we're talking about is that the church in Ethiopia, the Coptic church in Ethiopia, was not involved in the Crusades, was not conquered by the Muslims, and had a tradition that predated all of the origins of Christianity. That the connection with the Old Testament was, the Queen of Sheba. The New Testament connection, I think, I haven't looked at it at all, but it's a quaint idea. Was the the Ethiopian eunuch.
Acts chapter 8, yes.
So
Yeah, he was heading back to Ethiopia.
he was heading back, but he had a copy of the scriptures. So how did he get that? You know what I mean? It's like he didn't go down to Barnes and Nobles and pick up, you know. So it's a very, but that whole orientation that there was an existent church, highly theological, highly organized, but African in as much as that, you know, its origin, the source of it is North Africa. But the point of it was is that that whole church existence is not in my frame of reference. You know? I go the other way, you know? And I'm wondering why. My question is like, why is that, you know, not included? That perspective not included? Because it's very rich. It's very, you know, the antiquities are very real. The original copies and that whole thing, you know, that even the Dead Sea Scrolls don't come close to what their Bible, which includes 81 books.
Yeah, they have many other things in their canon that
Which I was told was like,
not. I can tell you the reason why.
we're done.
The reasons why had to do with many of the prophecies in some of these extra biblical writings were prophetic of Jesus as the Messiah. And the moment that you accept the book and its prophecies, and it's, you know, it's clearly pointing to Christ. It's clearly pointing to Christ.
Interesting.
That the leadership is going to say, no, we cannot accept this, you know, because now we are undermining the fabric of our own belief system.
So I was told that the canon closed in 96 AD.
Well, that's the Christian canon.
Yeah.
But the actual the Old Testament canon was established at that same Yavne Council in 75 AD. Where they basically identified the 39 books. Now for them, they're books that are combined, so 39 is not the right number, but it's the same as what we embrace today, the Orthodox Christian churches. It's those 39.
So,
but there are others like the second book of Esdras and some of the other part of the Apocrypha. They also, the book of Enoch is also, there's a Coptic form of that predates even the Dead Sea Scrolls.
yeah, no, that's what I was referencing.
Yeah.
And I mean, you know, so that is a gray area, meaning that there's just a shroud over that, and you know, that's not legitimate, but it is. It very much is.
Oh,
And historically, even more,
I would agree.
more antiquated, if you want to say, you know, closer to the origins of the original manuscript. So anyway, yeah, that's very interesting that it's like that.
I've written about this. There's a couple of, when you look at the history of that 400 years, the silent years, from Malachi to, you know, to the Gospels, you see that there were a lot of events that took place related to a third sect that is not identified in the scriptures, but it's clearly written about like Josephus and others that and we were talking about the Essenes, and the Essenes were they were the caretakers of the scrolls.
Yeah.
And that's, you know, what you found, what the Dead Sea Scrolls are. They were the caretakers, and they had them hidden in the caves above their own compound in Qumran. and they were hidden there when it was clear that the Romans were going to come after them. And
Well,
this
not
was
just
their
that
method.
for them, it was like they removed themselves from all the.
That's correct, because they did not accept the Pharisees and the Sadducees, who were much more political in their, and so there were distinct differences. They were willing to accept a lot of these, even though they were not biblical as far as canon goes, that they offered all kinds of extra information that provides context to the scriptures.
Well, this is the thing. To me, that's a soft sell. I mean, because, there's historical things in there. Well, but, I could go to Josephus and find accurate, precise historical references that are helpful to the scriptures, but he's not inspired. So my question is, are the additional books in the Coptic Bible, they consider them to be inspired?
Well, and the reason being that when you look at the prophecies that are included in there, did they actually come true?
Yeah.
And the ones who have yet to be fulfilled, they came true in the specifics. So when this is one of the ways that we can tell whether we're dealing with with an accurate report, or whether we are dealing with somebody
Just got a good
writing
authorship.
no different than Joseph Smith. Writing the Book of Mormon. I mean, Shirley had a very creative mind to write all that, but it certainly wasn't from God.
But now, my question is, because I don't know the history on this. So when was it decided what books were going to be included in the New Testament?
That was a whole process that did not get concluded until 367 A.D. That was when the final list was published. But it had been a process. There were certain books, including the Book of Revelation, 2 Peter, a number of them that were questionable. For number one, authorship in its entirety. But Eusebius is a great source for this too. He started writing. He was a contemporary of Constantine in the early 300s, and he does maybe the most complete history of the church from the time of the disciples all the way through to his time frame, and so he has a lot of information in there. When you look at the history of Eusebius, you see a lot of the events that are covered there are. It explains in a great way the process that the church was going through to evaluate. Halley's handbook,
The little Halley's handbook
has a great write-up on the process as well.
Well, it's not so much the process, and I can understand that. But then, who was in the room when it was declared, stamped, approval? I mean, was it unanimous? Was it, 60-40? You know what I mean? Like there's those dynamics that happen, as with any jurisprudence, any kind of decision that gets handed down, and not to be altered or questioned after.
Were tested, and so you have like 325 A.D. That's the Nicene, when the Nicene Creed was published. Then later, in the 4th century, you have two other councils. The first published, Athanasius, I think, was the name of the guy who published the list of 66 books of the Bible, that these are the accepted ones, and that list was accepted by one of these councils during that, and I can't remember which one it was.
But now
so that was the formality of the process.
the Nicene Creed was simply to be able to distill for people to articulate. Because there wasn't, like you didn't have paper. Here's my PDF. It's like you didn't have that, but people could recite and have that as a point of reference in their own minds. This is what I believe.
Well, this is the first time that Christianity was even allowed to exist. Constantine basically said, I'm willing to let Christianity, seeing as he got saved, he was allowing Christianity to exist now instead of it being outside the realm of, the pagan system that Rome was at that point in time. And then later, I think it was 380 AD, is where they basically said now, not only is Christianity accepted, it is the religious system of the empire,
Which meant
it was required at that point.
changed from a personal belief system to a political.
It was a necessity at that point, and when that happens, then you water down the whole system. If you're forcing people to believe a certain thing, it's no longer real faith. It's more of it's just an organization, an institution.
And you know what is the thing behind it all in my mind is that save for the grace and sovereignty of God, you've got human beings who are fallible, dealing with all of this, and so, but the general consensus is that we're smart enough to get ourselves out of a paper bag. We've got, I think, in every generation. So even today, the thought is that in some way, science or technology will come to our rescue. Not God, not a personal deity, but we are capable of figuring out our problems. But we are the problem. That's what the Bible points out.
Yep.
And and until you can get there, you're missing the mark. You're aiming at the wrong target. And so, we are fallen creatures.
I think the issue here, what I have found in my own study life, is that there is no orthodoxy. That you think that I'm trying to find the center point of Christianity. There is none. Christianity is a bunch of factions. These people believe this, these people believe that. There's certain cardinal doctrines that we might all agree to, the 9 or 10 cardinal doctrines that most will accept. But other than that, you've got all kinds of different groups. And among those groups, you've got hundreds of denominations that have grown out of each one of those groups. So there is no real center of Christianity. And I think that's purposeful because God doesn't want it to be an institution. The church is the individual and his connection directly to Christ. And our connection is not as much to the local assembly as it is to the universal body of Christ. So in our relationship with God, we are now connected to others who have that same relationship with God.
Who are within different cultures, different languages, different, That's why heaven is going to be diverse but unified.
Yes.
I mean,
why? Because Christ is the element. He's the issue.
Philip said it like this. Whether you're Baptist, Methodist, Episcopalian, Foursquare,
Every religious, every denomination, every religious system has its own pet doctrines. That they are, these are the things that they emphasize. These are the more important issues. But Jesus tried to address that with the Pharisees in Matthew 23, verse 23, when he said, you do a great job of tithing, but you have forsaken the weightier matters of the law. And what are those? Those are justice and faithfulness and mercy. things important. And what you've done is you have effectively you divided. These differences will divide more than they will bring us together.
Yeah. So that which can be shaken will be shook.
That's right.
To reveal that. And we know of the reality of being able to have real, authentic fellowship in the midst of those kinds of differences from different backgrounds, different denominations, all of the differences that men would put up to divide into that, but we say there's another place, a higher place that we can meet at. And if I can get there and you can get there, then we'll see each other the way we're supposed to. And so,